Okay, 498, we have all the parts. You should know what you have to do. I don't have much to say today. I do have a lot of links to give you. A reminder that the final version of the detailed design document is due tonight. Right? So please get it done. I think I've already given all teams feedback on the initial draft of the detailed design document, so please take note. If you have any questions about that, get me on Discord or talk to me today or send me an email today and I'll try and give you more detail. That's where we are. We're trying to move to finalising, and in fact we might want to skip over to finalising next. That's where we are. I talked about the product stuff. I wanted to quickly talk about apps because I know 2 teams were interested in apps. And what we should have done before the document that's due tonight is talk about wireframes for apps. And this is an example of wireframes for apps. In fact, let's see if I can pull up. So I teach CET 236 sometimes, and when there's 12 or 13 groups of students around, I tend to only help the noisy ones. So what I what I did is I wanted a Delhi ticket counter system, right? So you could take a number and then I would process the students in numbers so that everybody at least got a chance. So I wrote that up not for CET 236 but for the software engineering course I was teaching at Fairfield. And that's the one there. Right? So this is what the students will see, and I just put this link into Blackboard so when we have a lab here you can click on the take a number, and I think I've got the wrong version of the app installed to see this number, so I apologise for that. I used to have the I've got the old version, so I now have an app, and even though it says number 6 there, this is an old version of the app that doesn't get rid of the first stuff, right? So, and what I can say now is I can say, okay, I talked to the student, I can hit, yes, I'm done, and it tells me the service of that I'm all done, and then it tells the student, right? Now that's a much more complicated app than anything you need to do, right? Because there's a web page, there's a server, there's a database, there's a mobile app. Most of you are just interested in a mobile app.
If you don't mind me asking, what database do you use?
This one is MySQL.
MySQL?
Yeah, I tend to use either MySQL or Postgres depending on what I'm doing.
And what language is it all?
That's a loaded question. So I wanted both a mobile app for iOS and Android, and I did my thing of C#, so I just went with Xamarin. For the server side, at the time I was writing it, I wanted to learn Python. So I wrote the server side in Python. Right, so this is all it doesn't look very nice, but I didn't need it to look nice. And it's all being done in Python, so it works reasonably well. Plus, the reason I did it is so I could learn Python with a real thing rather than just tutorials and stuff. Does that answer the question? Yeah. Okay, so the first thing you've got to do is think what screens you have to have, and what is on each screen, right? And what's the navigation or the flow through the app. So think about that before you start coding the app. And this is just a little bit of background. There's two ways to do requirements. One of them, and they're not disjoint, you can do both. One way is the way I've got you to do it, with shell statements, right? Functional requirements and non-functional requirements. Once you get to software, they tend to use the idea of what's called a user story. And the user story is a statement like this template. If this is sort of the tried and true way, it's a bit old hat. You don't have to write a user story like this, but it's got to have the three elements. It's got to have the role, which means you have to have defined the roles for your app. It's got to say what the functional requirement is, and it might be a very narrow interpretation of a shell statement, right? It won't be the whole shell statement. It might be a very narrow piece of it. And then why, the justification for the user, the role to do it. Why are they doing it? Right? So the role might be professor or student. So that's the statement of the user story. But then you've got two other pieces. The acceptance criteria. When is it done? When's it finished? So you have to define that. And then the story points, if you're doing some sort of estimation, having how complex it is. And the usual thing with story points is you're only allowed certain numbers. You're only allowed 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13. So a Fibonacci sequence, every number is the addition of the previous 2. And then it usually jumps to 20, and then 40, and then either 100 or infinite. Right? And the idea is that it's not an hours, it's not a days, it's a complexity. It's what's it going to take to get this done? And it could be hours and days, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. I came to a project at UTC once that had been running for about 10 or no, it was more, 15 iterations, sprints they call it in the software sphere. And we had this huge pile of user stories in the backlog, in the list of stuff we had to do. And also they had the database of the stuff they'd done. So they had the story points for everything, the stuff that was undone and the stuff they'd done. So I went through and just drew a straight line estimate, given this is how fast they've been going for the last 15 iterations, and this is how much work still has to be done. When's the backlog going to hit 0? When is it going to all be done? And we had to get it done by March, and in fact you had to back off that a bit for QA, so you had to get it done by February. I estimated that we wouldn't get it done until October, just based on a straight line estimate. Anyway, we did it, and the project lead got up and said, we will have it done by February. This is in October of the previous year. My estimate was October the next year. We didn't get it done by February. We got it done by November. Right? So even though this is stupidly simple, if you use it in a fine-grained enough manner and consistently enough, it's a way of getting a handle on how big the project is. Right, so one thing I did to try and show this to the software engineering students is I wrote up all of the syllabus for the mobile application development course as a sequence of user stories and acceptance criteria. Right? And that's all that does. The way you figure out who that role is, what that role is interested in, is you create a series of what I call personas. And they're supposed to be archetypical rather than stereotypical. Archetypical people. Right? And depending on what you're doing, gender may play a role, age may play a role, locality, culture, whatever the health status, whatever the reason for the app is, you should have some sort of distinguishing features so that you can get at their personal motivations. Because some of them will want to do stuff and others won't. Right? So you need to be able to do that. And then you want to understand what your app is aiming to do. And one of the things that really bugs me when people talk about software is they say it has to be user-friendly. Like anybody ever goes out of their way to make user-abusive software. Right? You do?
You've seen it in the advertisements on your phone. They make the closeout button basically as small as possible.
Yeah, exactly. It's definitely user abusive. And so when you think user friendly, what do you mean? You have to get down to brass tacks, right? What does that really mean for you in your context? Right? Does it mean I can only have to click a few times, right? So part of it with this is I don't like having lots of navigation, right? So I've gone with, and it's not standard navigation. What I've done is I've said, well, anytime you want to navigate, you just double tap, right? So on the top thing there, you can double tap, and there's the QR code that gives that URL that I used, right? And there's a share button. I don't have to double tap that. I can share that however I want. Go back or double tap. I've started to use emoji rather than made up icons. So there's a gear, maybe? Yeah, there's a gear icon there. Lets me get to the settings. Not that there's many settings there at the moment, but I wanted to be able to see the GitHub hash, the version of the app, so I wanted to put that somewhere off the main screen. The reason I say that is I'm thinking number of clicks, number of screens, make it simple, right? Measure what you mean by user-friendly. And once you've got that idea, then you can start thinking about wireframes. Now this was a much more complicated app that I helped develop called Hopper, and the idea was that you take out the app and you want to find something about all the restaurants and everything around it. Now these days you probably do it with Google Maps or maybe Apple Mapping, right, and search. But we felt rather than just showing a map, we let Google do that or Apple, right? We wanted to show pictures of the restaurants and cinemas and that sort of stuff that they had posted on their social media. So we had a thing where we could basically pull in all the venues, we call them venues, and then figured out, had a web crawler that would figure out, okay, this is their Facebook page, this is their Twitter account, this is their Instagram account, this is their, what was the other one? I forgot what the other one was. Anyway, there was it might have been, I don't think it was Pinterest. Anyway, but there was, and that way we could get lots of pictures that that particular venue was interested in showing everybody. And then we would use those to show lots of pictures. Anyway, so there's lots of stuff there. Oh, didn't it, maybe I didn't put it in. Maybe I put it right at the end. Oh, okay, so in this, there's lots of, while I was doing this, I did a lot of write-ups. So this is the sequence of write-ups about what I did and how I did it. Okay, so I suggest you have a read through that. Okay, any questions about all of that? If you have any questions about apps, just ask me either during this session or outside, usually by Discord or email works. Okay, we can sort that out easily. In fact, any questions about anything, but I was particularly concerned with the apps. So, numbers. Parking automation is currently, I updated this yesterday for today, and I don't know whether I got the right numbers, but we've got an SPI of 0.79, and we're about 59% done. Home security drone pulled it up to 1, both of them. That's very good. I don't know whether it's accurate, but it's good. I went through and just associated. I don't think I said that the. I think I put the final design document, the one that's due tonight. I put that in at 50% done. Just, or it might have been 75% done. One of the other. Just because it's not done until after the deadline. But it's still pretty good. And that number came up hugely, right? Because you're only doing whatever's this semester, so that's good. And 0.86 could be better, but I think it's improved, so that's good too. Okay, I'm done. Let me hear a quick update from each team. So let's go with Smart Fridge first.
So we submitted our final detailed design document this morning. We all went through it between last night and this morning together to make sure we were on the same page. Today we plan on meeting and trying to figure out a time this upcoming week where we can start building our physical design. And we're going to figure out how we're each going to separate the whole app code.
Oh, that reminds me, I did get an okay from Professor Wu and the other professors who are in here. I just have to send them a list of all your names. So if you need to be in here, and they are here, you can be in here. But yeah, so that doesn't necessarily mean I have to be. I will come in if necessary. But if somebody else is here, then they should have the list of people. Okay. Thank you. Anything else?
That's about it.
Okay. Drone people?
We also did our updates to the gap, the detailed design to the gap. So today we're going to be talking about what the next steps are when we need to start putting things together. And then Jacob already built the frame, but now we're going to start with some actual electrical components.
Okay. And parking automation?
We put the finishing details on the detailed design document. I just wanted to go over it here and work with them, obviously work with them before we submit it. Next week we're going to be working on material documentation, and we're going to begin our material creation, right? So like 3D printing and stuff like that. And there's nothing really holding us back.
What we are expecting
what I should probably do is for each team share with you the numbers that I'm putting into those SPI and CPI and how I'm calculating it and get your feedback. So I might in future just export the task list as an Excel spreadsheet and show you what percentage done I'm putting in, and then say, hey, no, that one's way too low, way too high for the kids. Okay. Cool. I'm done. Thank you for your time. I will put that presentation in the Discord chat so you've got access to the PDF anyway.
We'll talk on Wednesday. It's probably going to work out.
So,
Okay. And I mean, worst case scenario, you know, we got two of us. I'll hold it here. Yeah, I can definitely do that. And then, I mean, worst case, that's how it should be. I'll talk to him when I get home today. Get a shirt that I can use it whenever I need it. Yeah. We'll be good.
Like, what did you discover making possible?
Yeah.
All good?
see you tomorrow.
Yeah. See you.
Yeah, this is just the